Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Trek Talk with Tech and Kirk. I'm TechMan16.
And I'm Strange Kirk.
So, Kirk, you ever been the top dog in anything?
Yes?
Short answer is no. So, in today's
What?
episode, will be a little bit different.
You don't ask somebody that question, they say yes, and you go, wait a minute. No, you're not. You suck. And you just move on. What?
I answered for you. But anyways, today we have a very special guest, the top dog, on Server 34 in STFC. It's known as very own Inchoate. Incho, how you doing today?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Kirk is offended. I'm doing great, by the way.
I think Kirk is still trying to imagine a situation. Maybe it was back in grade school. I mean, like, I'm good with that. Yeah, it's okay.
It's all right. Anyways, let's just rattle off a few basic questions. What's your favorite series? How did you get into Star Trek? And what's your favorite character?
I grew up with Next Gen. Watched a lot of the old original STFCs or Star Treks, and was always impressed with Shatner and the Green Woman. That was impressive. I lived vicariously through him through my puberty, but Next Gen is what I grew up on.
Right on. And then your favorite, but your favorite character is Shatner.
I mean, I think it's a throw between Shatner and Picard. I think Picard was the better captain, but Shatner is definitely the guy that I wanted to live vicariously through.
His overacting really what made Star Trek the original series what it was.
It was tremendous. He went on to other shows. Shatner is just so vastly entertaining. And I'll admit the new series of movies, I think the first release, the newest Star Trek I really just immensely enjoyed the rapid development of the characters. And it really was enjoyable. I loved enveloping my kids in that because, it's a 12-second generation. So making them watch that, they all of a sudden were like, oh, no, we get it. It's great.
How about the lens flares?
Well, I mean, it is what it is.
They're there. It's futuristic. I remember, just a quick side note, I remember talking to somebody about in cinema. I'm like, how do you get rid of the lens flares? And I'm just like, you put the light behind the camera. And they're like, oh, that's a...
So now you're getting way too technical. That's not what we're talking about.
All right. Anyways, let's switch to STFC. How did you get into STFC?
Very random, as a lot of people were. Just sat down, was like, shit, I need a new game. And found that and was like, oh, dude, I remember Star Trek. That was cool. Downloaded it and played it ever since.
And then you became top dog, what, pretty quickly, I guess?
I mean, I worked up through it. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't spend much time in the 20s. But, there was a graduation kind of play where I was, playing more here, there, building up a little bit, deciding, oh, crap, I really want to tear this up. And, obviously, became one of the bigger players, or at least mid-level for some time. But I would say mid amongst the bigs for quite a long time.
And how did the transition happen from, being mid amongst the bigs to, all right, I'm going to surpass everybody and have the coolest stuff?
Well, to be honest, that never was the goal. It was, mid amongst the bigs for a long time. And, we had a very cordial relationship amongst kind of that cadre of people. And then once the last patch came out, it just somehow I just kind of kept pushing up and eventually pushed to 50. And, that was all she wrote until tier 5.
The patch you're talking about was what, like when they expanded the levels from 39 to 50. Is that what you're referring to?
Correct. So going back to like February or whatnot.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because level 39 was the top tier at one point, and
Yep.
then they expanded it to 50.
And I was I was low to mid 30s. A lot of that, 42 was top. Kobe was top. They went up to 39 very quickly, and I was kind of in the low to mid 30s for a good long time.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because they might expand it to 76. Because if you look at the PvP charts.
Well, I would certainly hope so. I got things on my research tree. I'm 6 out of 10, and in order to go to 7 is requires R&D level 51. So I don't think that's kind of the end game quite yet.
Yeah, that's hard to do when you're capped at 50.
It is.
Good job, Scopely. If Scopely's listening.
They're not.
Wonderful.
God damn.
Oh, by the way, the I wanted to ask you the Armada, right? You have to have like is it super Armada shards or whatever to upgrade your Armada station?
So to get above the whatever it is, ATC, the Armada,
Yeah, the
technical
command center,
coalition, whatever the hell. Yeah, in order to get that past 39, you need the rare ones, which aren't as of yet released.
right. So all your buildings are level 50, but except for the Armada control center, which is 39.
Most of them.
Right. Okay. Again, perfect job, Scope.
Well, they're not ready for it. Scopely's mindset is, I would guess, is a little bit reserved in, they push in one direction or another, and they've kind of sat on armadas as they are. They're not ready for something to be greater than 6 spots, greater than the amount of bonus you get. So they just basically have ignored it for now and said, oh, it's fine as is.
Except when they released the Borg Armadas and the Rogue Armadas, where you're like, oh, okay, none of you can all take this in one shot. You got to do like 4, 5, 6 times over.
Well, that the Borg, I think, was a really flopped, release. I mean, those armadas are ridiculous, and then the Eclipse ones are actually pretty simple, and except for they jump from the whatever their 40 epics or 100 and change mil, and then the 45 we're gonna make it 500 mil, like even, like
Well, at least with the rogues, the what you get from the armadas is something that's usable in that rogue faction store. I mean, the Borg was like, here's a few nanoprobes for the trouble.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little bit, what's your risk versus reward for a lot of what they do, and Borg was terrible. At least Eclipse is at least reasonable.
Are you maxed out all the way in the Rogue store?
No, not quite. I think I'm a dozen or so shy of whatever the POS Stella has, and some of the other things, again, I still have limitations where I'm not R&D 51. Go figure. But a good deal of it. And the other things that require that, like the only thing, like to be honest, at a higher level, the things I was most excited from the Rogue store were warp speed and your impulse speed. Like I was like, oh great, frickin' finally. My G4 is not slower than everybody else's G3. Because it takes a good long time. Like if I want to go hop up to beta sector where you can actually get the little, I call them Nintendo controllers for like your Borg research, which is the end of the combat tree. I mean, it's still, even with that research, takes me 16 minutes. And beforehand it was 25 or 30 minutes just to go out there.
And that's all the way to the upper right hand corner, right?
Correct.
Of the map.
Which is the only place, as far as I know, that they, drop the little Nintendo controller things that you can get for that research. So, it's either do I live up in deep space where I can never play with my alliance? Like, oh, we're starting an armada. Great, I'll be there in like a half an hour. Or you live in regular space and have to travel there if you actually want to farm there.
So you're talking about beta sector level, like that upper.
Yeah, it's far top right. Off of what is it, ROM space? It's
right above ROM space. So like, what kind of hostiles do you find there?
They have all three varieties of combat ship, no surveys, and they're 49, 50, and 51. And they're all, Borg assimilated, basically like a Valdor and a whatever. But they do drop, like I call them, the little Nintendo controller looking things. They do drop broken ship parts. And their boxes, you can have actually G4 ship parts, but they're very, very low yield. So you return 50, you maybe get, 70 or 100 of the G4 uncommon ship parts.
But they're uncommon, right? That's what you use, right? That's the I guess limiting resource in this game.
Well, at the upper level, yes, they are. I mean,
okay.
Mats, minerals mean basically nothing. It's all about ship parts. So I recently bumped my Ent yesterday, and just to bump one of the guns, of which it's 3, they're all energy, to bump one of those, depending on what day you log in, whether it actually shows the cost or whether it's double the cost, but then it refunds you. I know everybody's really excited about that. To bump one of the guns is 65,000 uncommon ship parts.
That seems pretty intense. Let's switch to everybody's favorite topic: rules of engagement. How do you like them?
The interesting thing is that everything I've ever done with rules of engagement has literally had nothing to do with me ever. Since I've been playing this game over the past year and a half-ish, whatever, I think I've hit a minor that was not specifically a retaliatory move or a war move or something like that. I can easily count on one hand if I ever did it at all. So a lot of these discussions about when do we hit minors, when do we not do this, I more gauge off what my alliance members really have to go through. And my personal opinion is that the current ROE, although very well based, there was a lot of good thought behind, getting a bunch of the alliances together and trying to kind of nail it down, has really become so convoluted that it's, I can hit your D4, but only on this node, and if it's a Thursday, and if it's after 7 o'clock, and only if it's 76 degrees or above outside. It's really annoying.
Sounds like the original series Shatner episode with the gangsters.
Yeah, pretty much, exactly. So
with the made up game.
I mean, I think it's annoying. I mean, like, so for example, like, my alliance in the past, year or so, or 9 months or so since we started it, basically anything that is at fault with Scopely, the world, the weather, whatever, I get blamed for, or Nona gets blamed for. So I get PMs about everything under the sun. And my favorite, most recently, has been with the release of the new Eclipse areas, where, somebody hit me and I was OPL, but it's a token area. I was like, huh? Like, what do you mean? It's like, this is against ROE. I was like, it just opened yesterday. What do you mean it's against ROE? So these random PMs about being against ROE are literally so ridiculous. I would love to show you all, the number of those that I get, because I get asked about somebody from some other alliance and somebody about somebody other alliance. This person hit me. What do you think about it? I'm like, I don't know. I'm just trying to blow up some Fed ships. Like what? So I think it's become too convoluted.
I would love for you to share all those screenshots. You can block out the names. We'll post the screenshots so that everybody can take a look at them. But
or not, we could just flame the shit out of them. I mean, whichever one.
Well, that too. Fine. I
mean, we have a history. We have a history of transparency here. I'm just saying.
And talk about transparency. I mean, like, for you guys or whatever, and not wanting to dock somebody or call somebody out, but anything I've ever done or said, I am more than happy to show any log, whatever. I think in general, being a transparent player, and what I tried to do, when a handful of us started Nona, was really to try to be a group of people, not to inflame others and play like a-holes and all that kind of crap. Like, as a matter of fact, I didn't learn until I listened to y'all's last episode about specifically one of my players with some really inappropriate crap going through PMs, and they're no longer with us. Like, that really, I think, is the essence of, we're playing a game. If you're going to blow something up, but, just don't be a dick. I mean, I don't know how hard that is to understand. A lot of people don't, but
I just like to interject and say, obviously, to whoever this person was, I don't want to bring up any names on this case, but obviously that wasn't our intent for you to get booted from the Alliance. However, I think it speaks volumes to the leadership of the Alliance if they're seeing that and going, whoa, hold on a minute, buddy, you can't be doing that shit. I think that just kind of reinforces your statement of, hey, we're just here to play a game, that's why we started this Alliance.
No, I definitely
thought the game was about blowing shit up anyway.
I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, I love blowing shit up, but, again, I haven't raided in 6 months. I don't blow miners up. I mean, my enjoyment of the game comes from the members of my alliance and in them, growing up in the game. And sometimes they need help. And if, somebody's like, hey, can you crack this? I'm like, probably. That's entertaining.
Would you say that that's probably one of the biggest reasons that keeps you playing? Because, I mean, let's be honest here. There is no real challenge for you now, is there? But as far as anybody being able to compete with you, anybody being able to put up the numbers that you put up and blow up the ships that you blow up, and would you say that that's probably your biggest motivator to help your team progress through the levels and get bigger?
Well, I'd say it's the only one. I mean, if it weren't for the Alliance, then I would have quit playing a long time ago. But, I mean, there are certain things you can do in, the events that are, level related, and sometimes I can help. And then sometimes you have the events like for the cow events. Like, I mean, it takes me 33 million just to finish my, string. I mean, so it's harder for me. But, playing those events is one thing, and those kind of come secondarily to we just have players that are more active, and, we do have higher level players. But if it weren't for them, I mean, really, there wouldn't be much point to playing this game, to be quite honest.
I think Urbanator actually said it best, where this is basically a social app with a little bit of gameplay.
Yeah, and that's probably one of the few things I don't disagree with him on. It really is. And, some of the guys I played with, on and off, because I started back in IDDA, because I've only been in 2 alliances. I started back in IDDA when I started, and SDFC was kind of the competing clan and all that kind of crap. And, people like Officer Baudry, or OB as we call him, and 42, and they were on STFC, and we always talk kind of in the back scenes, and we really built that rapport, and that's why when it was kind of all this BS between the alliances, why we broke off and started Nona.
So what kind of BS was going on between those alliances where the top guys are like, all right, screw this, we're done?
I mean, there was a general call. So way back in the day, there was a lot of, I would say, there was some player poaching. There was a lot of behind the scenes, PM kind of BS that happened. And I actually went rogue for a while, just like a lot of people hate nowadays, and did my whole dry hit thing. And
no,
you did. I
oh
did.
My God.
I know I hate myself. I really
You've heard it. You heard it here, people.
You heard it here. It was terrible. I am
a dick.
I know. Just ask my wife. But I mean, so we went through that.
The correct term is virtual dick swinging. Dick swinging.
That's right. Virtual dick swinging. So, and that at that point, mine was only like, 4 or 5 inches. So, I can only do so much, but
I bet you could do some really fast helicopters.
I could. But we went through that, and like some of these other guys that were in SDFC at the time, like particularly OB, was always like, man, that was funny, man. You broke up the alliance, or the Armada, like a very legit dude. And after all that nonsense went away, all of a sudden there was another war called for by the then admiral of IDDA, and we were like, yeah, this is kind of BS, and we weren't really into it. And that's when I started talking to the other guys, like, really, can we just start a group where it's not just a bunch of people, dick swinging, basically? Like, can we just play a freaking game? And if you're going to hit somebody, you hit somebody. It's fine, not to have too much chaos behind it. And that's kind of where we started. And we started with literally 5 people. And this grew from there.
And now you're 80. Right?
Yeah, off and on.
Right.
But again, we're still working on it. Like I said, there are people that, I didn't know that said, certain things, or their actions were such that, like if you look on our Discord page, for example, we currently have ROE as basically cut and paste from the server 34. And we have 2 additional things. And the next one after the standard ROE is, if you send a PM, it should not be something you do not want an officer to read ever. And that's, I think, a key thing. I mean, if you want to be a dick, that's fine. Go be a dick somewhere else. And do we have people that are like that? Sure. Do we try to weed them out? Hell yeah. But, it's you can't be 100%. But that's really why, or what the basis of at least this alliance is like, I mean, let's play a game. That's fine. If you get hit, that's fine. Don't be a salty bastard about it.
Yeah, I completely understand. And I think people are way too emotionally invested in their little digital pixels to truly understand, like, this doesn't really have a bearing on real life. It's like, it's not like if you lose your ship, you're going to, get evicted or anything, or end up on the street, or, somebody's going to force you to do certain things that you don't want to do. Like, you can always turn the game off.
I feel like a lot of it lately has to do with the fact that, let's face it, most people's social lives are in shambles because of the current, pandemic and so forth. So I think what they've done is they're taking their need for socialization. Let's face it, as human beings, we're very social creatures, and they're taking that energy that they would normally put into going to their friend's house or going out to eat with their loved ones and so forth, and they're channeling that through this game that we play, and in so doing, they're also channeling their emotions, and so they're becoming more emotionally involved because, let's face it, I mean, this is one of the biggest outlets that we have. So I think that with that, it's healthy and it's not. It's healthy because it gives you an outlet, but it's not healthy because now you are, in your brain, that partition between a digital lifestyle and your real life it's now becoming lowered, and everything's getting muddled where everything's becoming confused. So, you'll have people now that are very likely walking around their house for like hours at a time because someone dry hit their ship with their blood pressure up, and they're actually mad in real life, and it's affecting their life. They're probably getting into arguments with their wives because they're pissed that something bad happened on the game.
No, I think it's very true. And, in our effort in the way that at least I play and the way that, I want, my guys to play is like, hey, we're going to play a game, and sometimes you're going to get hit and sometimes you're not, and sometimes you're going to get cranky, but, it's not the end of the world, regardless of what happens.
Sure. So we'll give you a pen. What would your rules of engagement would be in order to simplify and get people to, have less salt in their lives, I guess, playing this game?
Well, I appreciate the moniker, by the way. But, there have been a lot of us that have talked, and I'm not going to allow you to pin it on me entirely. But
No. This is not pinning it on you. This is I'm saying I'm giving you a pen.
I get the pen. No, I get it.
Right. And what would your personal rule of engagement be for this game?
If you could boil it down, in all honesty, it's don't be a dick. Now, the application of that is obviously, well, yeah. Trying to apply that is really freaking hard, right? But, it's like, so if I'm the guy that runs my Botany Bay on a double lat node and preloads it before a lat event, and it's not OPL, like, dude, you're being a dick. Come on. Like, we all get that. There's no question there of what that is. But, that's, I think, an easy example. Do you hit somebody OPL when, for example, like we have the quote unquote gentleman's agreement out in deep space? Like, do you hit other guys in deep space, even though a lot of us run OPL? It's like, well, no. Number one, because minerals, quite honestly, after about the low 40s, don't mean anything really. You don't run out of them. You have tons of them. It's all shit parts. But it's like, you hit it. Now it's like, God dang it. Now I got to send it back out there. It's, 15 to 20 minutes to get back out there. And I can't just send it directly because I can't see the area because it's deep space. And I got to click on it 20 minutes later and I've left it. It's a pain in the ass. So if you could say nobody be a dick, great, that would work. But functionally, I don't think that is possible because, let's be honest, there are plenty of people that are going to play that way. So the way that ROE has gone over the past, half a dozen, 8 months or whatever, since we started with this almost universal server 34 ROE, it started more simply, but now it's gotten very convoluted. So where it's only this ship on this node and this place at this time, and if it's a Thursday, there's an exception. It really has gotten more difficult. So, I will say that Nona, as of basically about a week from now, and in a lot of discussions with other alliances and other members and whatnot, there's been a lot of agreement behind this. I'm not just going out on a limb, but we will be going towards basically a no loot, don't shoot, pretty simple thing. With the exception that if that person is trolling you, and I would use that example of the Botany Bay on a double lat node during, sitting there all frickin' day holding up a node where there are no nodes available. And really the only other thing that we would kind of throw in that mix is warships are not targetable during armadas, because everybody knows armadas, for the most part, that's real life money. People buy those. So that's not legit to hit. Other than that, if you're a warship, hit it. I don't care. Now, I still think Don't Be a Dick plays into that. But we really would like to simplify things, and that's the direction that we will be going.
So I think the complication really occurred when all these token spaces came about with Borg space and now Rogue space. And there's another token area in Romulan space that the tokens aren't out yet, which I'm sure people will have problems over anyway. What would be the perspective in your case, but just in general, not what Nona's moving towards, but in your case would be about hitting in those areas? Because everybody's like, oh no, don't hit my 250k OPL faction miner on Borg Lat space.
Well, a lot of people, the main argument is that, we had to earn those tokens. Well, the same thing goes for people with, G4 miners. I would argue, hey, there's probably a lot more that went into getting one of those than particularly for the Eclipse stuff. Like, I spent whatever it is, 40k, because I hit a couple ships, so I got my token. This whole idea of I earned it, I think is not really, I don't really buy it. But I do buy like the Borg space a little bit more. A reasonable amount more, because those are much more difficult to get. They're much more random. And most people have probably gone through half a dozen trying to do that turn in just to get the token. But in the same idea, like in that space, nobody's filling those nodes. Like, okay, if your job is you want to go in there and mine instead of getting the quick, 250k, probes that you can off the survey ships in there, like, okay, like you're not going to bother me taking one node. I don't care how OPL you run. Now, will I fault somebody for hitting somebody off that if they choose to use their earned token to hit somebody who's God knows how much OPL? I won't fault them. But in the same token, no pun intended, I'm not going to fault them, but I'm also going to hold them accountable. If somebody wants to be, again, a dick and go into nodes and clear them, all the time, whatever, that may have an issue with the alliance or the Armada, the alliance as a whole. So it's a fine line, but I think it's just gotten too freaking complicated.
Well, I can say this about the Borg nodes. I think this is the point that everybody's getting to. I'm looking at one right now, and it requires a rare lat cell. I just pulled it up on my tablet while you were talking here, and literally every one of these nodes. Okay, there are 3, 6, 4. That's 10. There are 13 nodes in this system, and every single one of them is being occupied by a Horizon or a faction miner right now, and they're just sitting there slow mining. So if somebody wants to go in there, like for example, I mine Latinum when I'm not actively mining something I really care about. I just do it as kind of a time filler, because what I do is I actually refine those for Devore parts. I refine them to have a little bit of extra Latinum for using more speed ups when I do PvP battles, defending, attacking, whatever. When I'm grinding for hostiles, especially doing faction hunt and stuff like that. If I want to go in there and mine my ass off to get a bunch of this Latinum so I can refine it, I can't do it because these people are sitting on these nodes and preloading them for an event that literally means fuck all and has the worst rewards out of any event in the history of this fucking game.
It's the exact reason that I stopped doing or worrying about the LAT event, a month ago. It's like, number one, I have 750,000 freaking Devore parts. I'm never getting another Devore. I have one. I've never used it. Like, I don't care. Like, mining Latinum is terrible. I mean, the reward, no matter how much you mine, if you have 10 of the freaking things, you're like, you get a couple. It's like if you want to go to the far right of the pack side and you want to buy that vault of Latinum, like, brother, be my guest. There's your 2,000 Latinum. It's great.
It's the
Like,
greatest bang for your buck.
Right. It's just not worth it. So those people that are doing, high volume ships with slow mining, like, is that really fair to somebody? I mean, in my mind, I don't think it is. Now, would I hit him? Do I hit him? No. It's just I don't lap mine. So I can't speak what I would do, but I can definitely see my players saying, hey, I want to go in there, run my DVOR. I want to do something in this event. For what reason, I don't know. But I'm not going to fault that player for that decision-making process just because we're going to have we're going to protect these people, for, an arbitrary reason.
Because it's not like you can go back to Borg space and find those Ferengi traders and kill them and refine them again.
Exactly. So that's why I say that, Borg, I personally am a little bit more waffly about, like, I almost think it should be protected because it's pretty uncommon for people to get those spots. Now, like we mentioned more, earlier, like the Eclipse nodes, like, for fuck's sake, like, really? I mean,
you can get one of those cells a day, so you could inevitably just hold on to that node for as long as you want.
Well, and that's what I've tried to say, like on Serve 34, is like, look, do you guys realize there are 6 per zone? There are 3 zones. 18 nodes. My alliance can own those for the rest of time if they're protected. And yet, a lot of people are like, oh, they have to be protected because there's a token. And I don't get it.
The mythical token.
Yes.
It's mythical. It has magical powers.
Yeah, I'm just a little sick of it. So that seems to be a huge shift, though, and it's been a long time coming. I think a lot of people have been talking about it. I made a post on our the Discord that we're currently recording our podcast on, and I basically made a post that said, "Look, guys, here's the deal. I have spoken to basically the biggest players in this game, the highest power, and every single one of them is sick of this convoluted ROE. Every single one of them." And basically, what I'm getting from, I would say at least just a kind of a conservative estimate, about 80 to 90% of the players that I've talked to that are in the mid to high 40s, that they basically said that if people don't agree to a newer, simplified, less convoluted, easier ROE, they're just going to go non-ROE, which means a big problem for everyone else because they're sick of it. It's boring. Let's face it. The fact of the matter is that I would even argue to say to get to the level into the 30s right now, let alone up into the 40s, you would have had to have invested some money in this game. It's no secret. So we'll just go ahead and call that out right now.
No way. People invested money in this game? Holy crap.
It's true. I've heard of it.
So, but the fact is a lot of people have invested not only a lot of time, right, but a lot of money into this game, and those people are getting bored. And I understand some of the people who are, I like to call them sometimers, like maybe they log in 4 or 5 times a week. They want to have their voice heard, but here's the deal. You play this game the way that someone sitting on a toilet plays Candy Crush, right? So you're not really into the game. You don't really have your, to quote old reporters, the finger on the pulse of the community. You really don't get it. And I don't mean any offense. What I mean is that it goes a lot deeper than the game that you play. And people are really getting sick of it. Those of us who log in every day, 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, when we have the time, and we play and we grind and we do all this stuff, we're sick and tired of it. We're sick and tired of this outrageousness. Like you say, well, it's Monday, so you can't do that. You can't do that. It's Monday. We're putting UKOS, and we're going to dry hit all your miners, and I'm going to burn your mom's house down because you're a horrible person because you blew up my little digital pixelated ship. And we're sick of it. And a lot of people are kind of having some pushback on that. But what I was trying to say was, look, this is not me. I'm not even a high-level player. I'm somewhere in the middle, fading into obscurity. What I'm trying to tell you people is that this coming, and no amount of debate is going to stop it. So you can either put up a really big fight, which is the resistance is going to be futile, to quote a famous Star Trek band of people, or you can just kind of go with it and realize this is going to be the new normal. If you go against it, these people are still going to blow you up anyway, because it's going to happen. So you can either go with it and accept it, or get your ships blown up and just be upset because this is what's happening.
Well, because I mean, if you look at what does ROE do, in all honesty, ROE protects the lower level player from the higher level player. I mean, if you are higher level, it really doesn't matter. And I'm not going to talk about surveys and all that kind of crap. Surveys are broken. Scopely has totally screwed the pooch on surveys. But if you talk about the rest of, when do I hit something, ROE protects you if you're lower level. If you're higher level, it doesn't so much. So, the way that we have gone through this voting process and whatnot for Server 34, it has become so convoluted because people always want to protect themselves, which is natural, and that's what they should want to do. But for players that are here all the time, like, there are some times where, okay, I'm going to hit your survey. It's on a node. It shouldn't be on that node because it's a slow miner, and I need that node. That's part of the loot. If you need to do that because you think that's part of the game, I will not fault a person for that. But again, I go back to just don't be a dick about it. Don't be, and I love Chef. I've talked to him a bunch, but that's his game, and I'll leave that as a separate issue. But if you want to play the game that way, that's one thing. But when it comes to the vast majority of the people and the way they play the game, is like, look, hit something if it makes sense. Don't hit something if there's nothing in it for you.
So your way of kind of what you're saying is, as far as the no loot, don't shoot, the loot in this case might not be in the cargo hold, but it's that node that you're sitting on that I'm going to mine more efficiently than you.
Or less efficiently, actually. So it's again, that same analogy of the Botany Bay sitting on a double lat node, trying to fill up, because I understand people got to work and you can't, deal with stuff, but don't sit that on there for 12 hours when your mining rate is so low, because in the end, the game benefits when all of us are mining and getting resources the fastest way possible, because it's distributed between the players, whether it's through you hit them OPL or somebody gets raided or whatever. When we get the most out of the game benefits from the player perspective.
I guess that makes sense from a reverse standpoint. You hit an OPL Devore on the lat node and sit your Botany Bay on it. And then somebody else says, well, look, I really need this, so off you go, put my Devore on it.
Yeah, I mean, it does. And, if you have players that, I'm going to run through and hit all these people that are, 7 minerals OPL time and time and time again, well, again, that goes into the being a dick category. And that's where the Alliance says, hey, this person is a dick. We might need to talk to them about not being a dick. And we can go ahead and talk about, we might be more aggressive on you, just because of your play style. Not that it's magically, not that it's magically against ROE, like, oh my God, things are going to explode and catch on fire because it's against this magical thing.
Yeah, right. This thing that we made up that goes against game mechanics.
Well, it's interesting. So, obviously, from our Alliance perspective, we've had a number of people who have been notorious dry hitters of us. And they have their own issues, one or another, or whatnot. And anytime that I've ever talked either on, the private server or the private SDFC disk or through tickets to Scopely, trying to call it, this harassment or whatever, their comment is consistently PvP game, deal with it. So, I mean, this is the game we all chose to play.
Right. Everybody knew what the game mechanics are when they started. So why are you really that upset that somebody's going against some sort of made up pack that people are playing? I mean, not like we're going to go on Call of Duty and be like, no pistols. You can't use any pistols. Like, what? No.
No, you can't use silver pistols, with armor-piercing ammo on Thursday.
On Thursday. But it's okay on Friday because that's the free-for-all day, and Bob from accounting brings margaritas.
God, I wish I knew Bob. But I mean, like, I totally agree. I totally agree with one of the things that was brought up, like server purge day. I think that'd be great.
And it's so funny that you brought that up, because I think the reason that became a thing again, because I know it was brought up earlier in the year, I think the reason it became a thing again is because I misinterpreted, if I'm not mistaken, what you said on server 34. You said something about opening up your base, and for some reason I read that as let's have a free for all, and I was like, yeah, free for all, and then everybody was like, oh, okay, like let's do it.
But I think that'd be great. I mean, like, really utilize all the game mechanics the way they are. Everybody hit everything. Just, have fun. Like, who cares? They're pixels. Come on, guys.
Right. There was a lot of pushback. A lot of people were like, but my dailies. And I'm like, dude, you can still get the token without mining. Like, you can still get your daily token without mining anything. You just go blow up a bunch of hostiles and swarm.
Or you can, like, not get the token and it won't be the end of the world.
Oh, but the thing is, for some of these people, as we said earlier, with their emotional investment, they are really going to lose their mind because they didn't get that, 50 Romulan credits or whatever to get, 2 orders of basic ore or whatever the thing is. And people are really getting overboard. And I think that it's this game, unfortunately, I'm not going to say everybody, because there are plenty of people that are like, dude, let's have fun. I'll blow people's ships up and they'll send me a message and be like, I'm coming back, bitch. Like, and then we go back and forth and it's great and we talk and everything's cool. But a lot of people do really get bent out around about it because of, like I said earlier, what we have going on as a society, unfortunately.
Well, but I mean, like, some of my best experiences in the game, some of the most fun that I've actually had playing the game is when we have the old, so-and-so is shield down, somebody starts raiding, we start playing against basically another alliance, and now it's like, we're going back and forth, and somebody warps in, and then somebody's going to drop shield, and then they're going to, they play the Rialta game. I mean, like, that's fun. Like, how is that a bad thing for us to go and blow each other up? It's like, that's kind of the whole game thing. Because
I had to leave my node to go defend some dude that didn't know how to shield, and now I lost my node and I can't get it back. You see, your logic eats itself.
and I get that. I get those parts of it. But I mean, reality is that if people are going to play a game, try to actually treat it as a game. And, I try to promote that. And we, like I've always said, we have bad actors that we find and we try to deal with that or remove them. But that's really, in all honesty, what we're about is none of the freaking bullshit. That's the whole no salt thought.
Well, another aspect to it, too, that I think that can go into what's going on right now is the fact that look at any online community for any mobile game or other big game where there's a huge online presence. This is the most expensive microtransaction game because, let's face it, our transactions are not micro, they're macro, right? I mean, you got people spending what their mortgage is in a day to tier up a ship. And again, no, I'm not casting any judgment. All I'm saying is that the amount of money that's spent, people not only are emotionally invested, but they are financially invested in this game. And I think that also brings another aspect to the anger and people getting upset about blowing up their ships, because in a lot of ways, this is real money for them. I mean, they have invested a lot of money in this. And unfortunately, some of these people that are investing money don't really have any business investing that kind of money because it's, they're overspending. It's become an addiction for them. But I think that's another aspect to it too. I mean, you're going to have people that have the expendable income, that have the ability to do that, and it's just another drop in the bucket. And then you have people that are going, well, I could probably move a couple bills around to buy this Explorer pack, and it happens every day. So that's also going to come with its own issues where people are a little bit more invested financially than others as far as the ratio of what they earn versus what they're spending on the game. You know, if you're making $45,000 a year, but you're spending $10,000 a year on this game, you know, I don't say this as to be mean or as a joke or anything like that, but you should probably seek some sort of an addiction specialist's help
I would agree.
to try to get a handle on that, because I mean, let's face it, we all hear the stories and things like that. There have been several people in this game that have been forced to leave the game because their wife found their bank statement. There was one person, I'm not going to mention their name, I don't want to put them on blast, but there was one person who opened up an entirely separate credit card for this game, and where he messed up was he left his desktop open with that credit card statement, and she found out that he had spent $7,000 a month on the game, and it almost ended his marriage.
A month, Harry? Jeez. In
a month. And again, for some people that may be a drop in the bucket. If you make that much money, if you have that type of disposable income. But apparently this guy didn't. So I just think that introduces another aspect of the emotional investment. And I think it is important for people to step back and realize it's a fucking game. Yes, I said fucking. It's a fucking game. And we need to remember that. And let's have fun and let's enjoy it. Speaking of emotional investment, here recently, there was a really big clusterfuck of people blowing everybody up because everybody was upset about something. You've heard that we've interviewed Grand Admiral Key. We interviewed Handyman has spoken on the subject. You've heard even Urbanator. We've had Urbanator on recently. And, I mean, what do you have to say? I don't want to go into it too much. I know that we could go all day about this, but what do you have to say about all that, where people are pointing fingers at you and pointing fingers at other people, and this person's a bully and that person's a bully? What do you have to say about the whole debacle that recently occurred?
I mean, I think the end all be all, you know, like I said earlier, is that, you know, obviously, you know, Nona and, you know, even myself are easy targets for people to point at and say that we're mean or bad or whatever is wrong in their life, is that we're the root of all evil. But as I pointed out earlier, like, how many times have I hit, you know, a minor or hit somebody's base or whatever? Like, it doesn't happen. So these people that have come off and said that there are issues with the way that, you know, either our alliance or myself specifically ran things, like when, you know, Q and Key and the whole TE thing broke off. I mean, I was called the Chinese kid in my mom's basement, which I thought was interesting because I don't feel that way. But like that I'm doing something bad against them. Or, for example, Urbanator, when he and I actually started having issues with a player of mine back in May, which is all through our Discord chat. Beginning of May, he had an issue with somebody who was hitting their base back, I don't care whether it's 40 or 50 or whatever. This is months after Deep Space came out. And somebody was hitting with an ROE, and they were actually being inappropriate in PMs. And I spoke with that person, and I said, that ain't gonna fly. Don't talk that way. You're just being a dick. And it went to, all of a sudden, I tapped Herb's base, which I didn't raid it. I don't raid anymore. But I was accused of using, I think it was my VIP hacks, to say that he wouldn't get alerts, even though all I did was tap it. So now all of a sudden I'm a bad person. Obviously, I'm a Russian hacker on top of that. And that
Wait. You're a Chinese kid in a basement and a Russian hacker? How does that work? Were you born in Mongolia?
I wear multiple hats. You know, so it also keeps me away from the authorities. So we go from that. And one of my favorite messages from Herb in particular was at the end of May, before he decided to dry hit us for 2 months, was, don't worry, it's not like I'm going to go on a dry hitting spree. It's not like I'm that kind of person. And that was literally, I don't know, 5-6 days before he decided to do so. So players are going to get upset about things, but these dry hitting sprees, like, in all honesty, they're annoying, but it's not like they do a lot. So what their action is really they're fighting back against something. And to be quite honest, a lot of it, I don't know what that was or is or was about. I've sent bad messages. Everybody else in this game has sent bad messages. I don't care who you are. You've gotten pissed off at one time. You've said something that you regret. That's fine.
Absolutely.
But like the whole, like, I'm going to go on a spree, like the current thing with Trojan, like I kind of actually get what he's doing it for, but I don't agree with the method that he is, the way that he is expressing his displeasure. I don't agree with that. So those kind of players are going to happen. And because we're a top alliance, we're going to get that type of activity and we're going to get that type of attention. And to be honest, we kind of expect it, and we've frankly become used to it.
Right. Just for people listening, I know a few people know this, but there for a while, the only information I knew about you was obviously what other people said. You and I had a long conversation about this, a few weeks ago. And the only information, as we know, and it's something that I should have known with all the experiences in my life, but again, too, I'm human, was that you really only hear about the bad shit. You don't hear about the good shit. You know what I mean? Like, for example, like with the police, nobody calls 911 to report that they're having a great day. It's always something bad, right? So you always hear about the bad news. And you only see the bad screenshots where Inko is being a pompous dick and he's an asshole and he's a prick and everything like that. And then I started because of this podcast and just because of, talking to people. And at the time I was one of the Commodores at most, and getting to know some other people from different alliances. They say, hey, you kind of got it all wrong. And, I was never overly critical. I was never like, fuck that MFer and he's in, POS and all that stuff. But it was just like, yeah, he seemed like, he was real, he's really dick, and he's pretty much a pompous dick, and they're like, well, all you're seeing is the bad stuff. Why don't you actually talk to the guy? Why don't you actually? And then what I'm doing is I'm over here on this side of the coin, I'm being shown like this half of the conversation, which looks really bad. And then this other people's like, no, wait a minute, I got this stuff saved because he sent it to me. Let me show you the whole conversation. And then I see the whole conversation that takes place over the period of a couple of days. And I go, wow, okay, that person pushed his buttons. And then when he finally they got the reaction that they desired, they took a screenshot and they were like, look, see, I'm right. I'm correct. He's a bad guy. And so, for those of you listening, I actually called and apologized to Inko. I had never said anything to his face. I'd never, said anything to him and called him out on anything. But I still felt kind of bad for feeling the way I did, only having one side of the conversation. So it is funny that you're talking about that, because you do have a lot of people when you in the position that you're in, being the most powerful person in the game on our server, and also being the head of the most powerful alliance by far in this server, of course you're going to attract a lot of attention. People are going to be looking to you for everything, and everything you do everything's going to be so critical of everything you do, whether it be that they are jealous that they can't afford to get to the level you're at, or play at the level that you're at, or have the type of alliance that you have, and things like that, because you have members of your alliance that have been in your alliance since I can remember. You have a lot of loyal players, whereas it seems like a lot of other alliances, there's a lot of revolving doors. And so people do become so critical of that. And I would invite people to just send him a message. Just say, hey, what's up?
Don't send me more messages. Jesus tits.
Okay. Okay. So you heard it here first, folks. He is a dick. Don't talk to him. Right? So
But I mean, but I am. I mean,
You both are dicks.
I am. Ask my wife. But I mean, I am always open to people talking to me. Like I mentioned earlier in the podcast, I only learned about the way that somebody was speaking, by listening to y'all's last podcast. Nobody told us that, or me that, and nobody told any of my comms about that. And we were like, holy cheese and rice. Like, dude, that ain't going to fly. And, then we can act on that. That these are things that, we're all human beings. We're all playing a game. It's the middle of the zombie apocalypse. We all have to take a breath, realize that simple fact, and play the game from there. And if you get blown up, great. Like, I think for y'all's next interview, you definitely ought to interview OB. Like, trust me, you want simplicity and you want honesty. He's your guy. Simple New York guy. I mean, don't take life too seriously, and definitely don't take a game too seriously.
Let's switch gears. We're going into a very feely emotional kind of path.
Can I get a hug?
How's that new Enterprise A treating you?
Well, if you're in my alliance yesterday, it hurt a lot. There were basically a page of alliance rewards just because I tiered it up to 8. It's the Ent A is good. I really wish that I had gone Romulan. I did that the original for the G3 stretch. I went Rom first and got the AUG first. I love the AUG. I think it's the best G3, but
even better than the Enterprise?
For G3s, yes.
Right.
I think the Auger is great. It's the better farmer. Having Livis just boosting your hull. It makes it a better farmer. I really think that was the best move. And from looking at everything from the people that actually got the trib, like Ska and all them, it's a better attack ship. It has much better firing patterns and all that. Now, that being said, on our server, yeah, I mean, I could blow up whatever you want. I mean, it works fine. I mean, where it is currently 22 mil and change, I can one shot a base up to about 100K or so.
You mean 100 million?
Yep, or 100 million. Okay. So, I mean, it works great. Now, the problem is I don't raid bases or any of that kind of crap. I farm. I mean, any of y'all want to come play with the Ent? Yeah, come hit me up. I play in Sol now. And, all I do is I hunt Federation. That's the same thing that everybody else does. Oh, we faction locked. So we'll use this ship that we just bought, and we're going to blow the crap out of all our friends we just made. That's what you do.
And there is a second faction lock, right, at $1 billion?
Yeah, thank Jesus. There was a lot of talk on the private one that said, oh, there's no more locks. So, yeah, you do lock at $1 billion, thankfully. But, yeah, between... oh, God. But between 10 million to 1 billion, yeah, brother, you on your own.
You got to pack a lunch.
Yep. So I mean that's now I'm playing around trying to blow up enough of those ships and run enough of the dailies where I don't screw my Klingon rep, but I've got Rami up to 200 and change, but I don't want to break down Klingon below 50. It's a frickin' teeter totter because I'm trying to kind of two run it.
Are you trying to go to a what is it, a Tribune?
Oh, the Trib is the best ship in the game, no question.
Is it?
Yep.
There's okay.
No question. Everything I've seen, Tribune, particularly, so you can launch. Oh God, I think Ska is running it's like 18 hits a round. I mean,
holy shit!
It's ridiculous. ridiculous. So
18 per round.
he actually posted. He messed around, and I can't remember what his crew eventually was, but back when we were doing the Borg, he beat one of the Borg 100 mil things solo with, he was using like Charv and I think Khan, and I can't remember who else. But firing pattern, that's definitely the best. But I mean, like, as far as farming, like, I can farm 30 something ships out in beta sector with the Ent, using, the our standard PCA. It's a good ship, but yeah, I would have gone ROM.
I have heard that Romulan was from several people that are obviously much higher. They've all said that Romulan, especially once you get into the G4 ships, is the better faction of the three.
Yep, I would agree with that. So that'll be my next one.
So you're trying to get the Tribune. Are you going to tier it all the way, like max Tribune?
Oh, cheese and rice, brother! Don't let my wife hear you. I mean, tiering those ships. In all honesty, it's so ridiculous. It really requires, number one, being ticked off, and number two, a good deal of alcohol in order for you to actually do it. It just does. It really is ridiculous. So like I said earlier on, one gun on the Ent to get to tier 8, that's 65,000 uncommon ship parts. That's a lot of ship parts. Even at tier 50, or even at level 50, my ship part packs are 4,500 of them. So do the math.
Jesus.
So you're looking at like 12 packs just to get one gun.
One gun. So it's not really that easy a thing to do. But definitely, if anybody is thinking of going in the mid 40s, once you start picking your rep, I would definitely go ROM.
What do you typically do as a level 50? Because like you said, you don't raid. You participate in events. I get that, and you just farm hostiles for the next ship, for the next level. Is that what you do?
Most of it is, so at 50 you have the 6 ships, so I have 3 that mine because I can't run more than 3 ships at a time anyway. So 3 are, no brainer, they just go mine. And of the other ones, I will farm and soul, killing, the 49 miners, and that's actually so that I can stay down in regular space. Because like we talked about earlier, being up a deep space, it is such a royal pain in the rear to get in and out of it that if somebody ran an armada, I would never get there to help. So for the other ones, I'll run Soul. I do run one up in beta sector just to, farm ship parts and Nintendo controllers. And then I've had to run this frickin' Stella, which I hate with all my life and soul. Okay, I'll run this POS, just to help out guys with armadas. But it really is, it's looking for what our guys need. If they need help with an armada, if they need help with, cracking a base or something like that. Like, that's the whole reason I don't stay in deep space. If I wanted to go up and, live up in 180 or whatever, you can, but you want to be even more secluded from the game. Be my guest.
So would you recommend, because I'm skipping the Stella, I don't want any part of it. Would you recommend that to players?
The problem is, so in all honesty, I think the Stella is harder to skip than either the Franklin, or the Devore.
You mean Vidar?
Or Vidar, sorry. Devore too, that sucks. But the problem is, And it's true that the problem is the whole scrapping gameplay mechanic BS. The Stella is harder to get rid of, or to skip entirely, because you will need some of those parts of the research tree in order to actually get the ones that actually matter. The Stella ones, in all honesty, I don't give a flying fuck or rolling donut about. But to get your warp speed, to get some of your defense research done, you'll need those boxes checked. And getting the Stella, to get the Stella particles from scrapping it, that's really your only way to do it, unless you want to buy packs.
So what's the optimal level? Because I've heard people like say level 5, level 12, 15. Some people just make the Stella and scrap it and get a bunch of particles.
Well, I mean, and we had to do that. It was really great. I had to do that for one of the other events. The beginning of this was scrap it every frickin' 5 seconds, but they only boosted the number of Stella particles that you got. Like after that, it was like, gee, thanks guys, F you. I mean, the better numbers, like Handy was actually really good, and Nemesis from my alliance were really good at crunching the numbers of showing us that like tier 7 is a great scrapper, and you can get better from that. But like, for example, my main Stella, I still got one more frickin' pull just to get it to tier 7, because I scrapped the damn thing like 847 times for one of the events. So this event is really meant to be a long-term thing, even though a lot of us, it's not that long-term. So if you look at the way they built it and the way they built the rogue rep, is when you're higher up in the research area, there are a lot of research parts that, you need 400 million rogue rep. Well, who the hell has that crap? I mean, we've all got 100 grand or 130 or something like that. So they intend for this to be a very long-term play, even though it's, functionally speaking, is not going to be that helpful. It helps with base defense, it helps with warp speed, but the research itself with the Stella and whatever is kind of meant to support that, and that's really kind of it. But that's the only line that ship specifically is going to be required. You can get by without a Devore, you can get by without a Vidar, Franklin, doesn't matter. Once you get an Enterprise, that's better than a Franklin. I mean, the regular Enterprise, not the Ente. So, I wouldn't skip it.
Yeah, I actually prefer the Vidar, because then you could redeem your nanoprobes for like Fed credits and reputation. But then again, if you're buying packs, that process kind of moot. But
the Vidar to me was actually, in my opinion, the only good thing that came out of the Borg arcs, because like you say, I mean, it's really great. I mean, by the time I got it, I was already kind of high enough where it wasn't as useful to me for a regular PvP ship. But I mean, for people that are in the 20s now, or even around 30, I mean, it's a great ship, because I mean, it'll get up to over 1 million. I mean, it is still very good in PvP. You can use it not just on Borg stuff, and like you say, the higher you get it, you can start using your nanoprobes to farm rep. You can use it to get more tokens, more credits, so you can get officer packs and blueprints and everything. So to me, I think the Vidar was a really great ship, whereas the Stella, to me, seems like this whole rogue arc is just something else that Scopely threw at us to spend our resources on, to pull us away from the main storyline of the game.
Well, I mean, if you look at the storylines, though, this just goes to show, Scopely really is trying to cater to the mid-level player, because a higher level player, those ships really aren't that helpful. But to a mid-level player, like you said, with the Vidar, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, that can really be a much better ship for you than, your Mayflower, or, maybe even your Saladin or whatnot. I mean, it's a very functional ship, but the Stella specifically, because of that scrapping whole BS thing to get the particles, I mean, if you want to go up that research tree, you will need that. That really is the downside. You can't get around that. There's no way to get past, I think it's 2/3 of the way up that tree. Without Stella particles, you're not going any further. And some of the warp stuff is beyond that. Don't worry about the 2 extra bonus missions. That was BS, but I mean, you will need that to get beyond there.
Do you have the triple maxed?
Say again, the triple maxed?
Yeah, 10 of 10, the triple.
Tech, that is a really good point. Yep.
Which part?
The triple miner, the 10 of 10.
Yeah, the officer.
That guy. No, because I don't. Today was the first time I went back into Borg space in about the last 6 to 8 weeks. So my rate limiter is all about the charged particles.
No. The officer.
Yeah, I know the officer.
Yeah, but it's useful for mining.
I know, but in order to tier them up, you have to have the charged nanoparticles.
Oh, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So I have. Yeah. Yep. So as a matter of fact, the only officers that, if I look at who's upgradable, the only ones are the Borg officers.
Because you got everybody maxed.
Well, I mean, I don't have the new Rogue ones maxed, but you can still max them. You can still tier them because they don't require the additional particles.
I would like to make an amendment to my earlier statement. That 10 of 10 is a good officer. I think what you had to do to get it was ridiculous, but it is a very useful officer.
I agree. It actually is the only officer I think is worth a damn out of that whole tree. Like, you're never going to use any of the rest of them except for hunting Borg or whatever. I have my questions about the new Rogue ones, but 10 of 10 is like, oh yeah, I can actually use that.
If you put it second tier, it adds 8% to your power just by itself at tier 1. I can't imagine when it's like a tier 3 or 4.
Well, but remember, power is a totally ridiculous statistic.
No, I know, but it adds to health and it adds to defense in the second tier. But using those weird Scopely calculations, it's like 8% power. Not that power means anything, but it's very useful in the second row.
But
especially when you watch somebody with a 4.3 million Enterprise take out a 5.8 million Jelly, you realize the power means absolutely nothing.
But see, like, here is where you get into where I think the biggest thing that I think causes the most static, comes from, is the way that Scopely has dealt with the survey. It's that if you look, for example, of the G4 surveys, which for everybody else, if you have a tier 9 G3 survey, that's roughly equivalent to a tier 6 G4 survey, with the exception of warp range. So they have the same mining rate. They have basically the same cargo. It's basically the same bloody ship. It just goes further. But the problem that Scopely came into is that if you look at, for example, my miners, I've kept it tier 6 because, again, minerals don't matter. And number 2, like, why would you go further if it doesn't really freaking matter either? So if you run like a 1 million Saladin at one of the G4 miners that's at 2.2 million, your Saladin is going to beat the ever-living snot out of that with like 10% health loss. Their hull is still fully intact, so the numbers don't match up. If they wanted to fix a lot of the BS with miners, like, really it would be like, if you look at the description of the Hydra, it's like, oh, it breaks up into these 3 separate sections and it's magical and whatever. Like, where's the mechanic? Like, it gets attacked, it goes, screw you guys, I'm going home, and auto warps out. Or something like that. There's no defensive capabilities. And I have all that reactive defenses and survey defenses and all that basically full. It doesn't matter. So that's where I think they fault the most on the surveys being unable to defend themselves at all.
Have you sent any nasty letters to Scopely?
Oh, hell, everybody sends nasty letters to Scopely. I got kicked off the VIP server before because I said their community leader, person, employee of Scopely. I was like, yep, you're not doing anything. So I got kicked for it for a bit.
Oh, you mean like Pennick or whoever it was?
No, it was Gala.
Oh, Gala, yeah.
Yeah, I was being salty. No, sorry. But
wait, you broke your own rule?
I
Dude.
did.
He's a dick.
This came back to when they switched up the miners in the capital cities. Remember when they were level 55 miners, and then they changed them to regular and heavy?
Yeah.
So for those of y'all who don't know, so the regular still shoot energy weapons, and the heavy are only kinetic. So that's when you use Pipe Moreau, either Chen or Talal. You have to switch that up, and Chen is much better at deflecting the energy. So if you want to hit the heavies, you have to hit Talal, and you get less, and blah, blah, blah. So she fought to get them at least named separately, because originally when it came out, you couldn't tell.
I remember when they released that patch update, because I remember reading that some of the surveys have now changed, where some of them use kinetic weapons and some of them use still only energy weapons.
Exactly. But originally, you couldn't even tell if it was kinetic or energy. So what that said to me is my gameplay meant that I could not farm any longer in regular space. I had to go to deep space. Now, at least she lobbied them and got them to say, oh, one's heavy, one's regular. But to make it level 49 so that it wouldn't count for level 50 ships, which is a little bit annoying, not that big a deal, but a little annoying. But that change where it's, if I went in and tried to get the regular ones, I could clear the regular ones and sit there for half an hour and never see another one. So that was another change that they made that there was some hubbub about. But yeah, I pitched a fit about that and was like, yeah, you failed to make them change it. You didn't get them to do it correctly. And I got kicked for that for a few weeks.
So the VIP server, is that where you get your VIP hack for shield cracking?
Well, I get that and a number of other things. I have a /kill command, which works really well. And then the one that makes sure that you don't get any warnings when I attack your base.
Ugh, you must have used that on me, because I've had that happen to me before.
Yeah, I do that all the time. It's funny. So a few weeks ago, when you guys know, opened my base up to hits, it was funny to see how few of those hits actually came through as warnings and whatnot from the app itself. But it also was interesting with how difficult it actually was to do anything with regular ships because of those warnings.
Yeah, because you constantly have constantly have a big red line going, a big red thing, and everything's flashing on your screen with the warnings and all that.
No, the red thing flashing on the screen actually was very inconsistent. Even though I was, 100% of the time being attacked the whole time. It was about every 30 seconds or so I get the red thing.
Yeah, you force glitch the thing if your base is getting raided sequentially. It's only if ships are targeting that are 3 to 4 seconds out that you get accurate red flashy things. But it kind of reminds me of if you're flying, there's these things called VORs. Doesn't really matter, but effectively, if you're further away, it's an accurate distance measurement. But if you're flying over the top of it, it still says you're a mile out, even though you're right over the top, because it's a distance measure. So I akin that to Scopely's wonderful code of how that works. By the way, I wanted to ask you about that. You let your base down. I know Scarlet Fire hit you a couple times. I know Stinky hit you once, and then Chemo did the main heavy lifting. Yep. And then obviously you moved your ships out because nobody's going to crack you. People can sit there for 8 hours scramming your ships into your base with all your ships intact, and you still won't get cracked. But so you moved your ships out. Emo cracked you, and then he gave up the spot to Kevin, and then I saw this happening where you moved your ships back in, and you only let you told Kevin to leave, and only Chemo to come back in. What was the deal with that?
So, as a monotony breaker, I thought it'd be fun to try to, let anybody, play with the base. And Chemo and Scarlet were able, with multiple hits, they would do one hit of damage on a ship if the ships were in. So I pulled them all out and let them crack. The reason that I told Kevin to back off was simply because one of my guys, OB, is currently number 1 in rating. That Kevin is trying to beat him, basically. And because Kevin and for all intents and purposes, the other couple of guys from Dark that raided afterwards while I left it open for a few hours didn't even attempt to crack, didn't even attempt to hit, didn't even attempt to do anything, were basically just to go there and raid afterwards. Kevin specifically, just because he was higher up on the rating list, I just said, I don't feel comfortable giving you, free rating, when you're playing against one of my guys. And because, I'm doing this in an open fashion, I request that you not raid. And that was that.
Okay, so if he would have helped in the rating, or maybe it's just because he's right now he's number 2. I think.
Right. Had he at least attempted, like even one hit, even anything, there was nothing. And I love Chemo. Chemo does a great job. He kicks ass. He and Scarlet, both attempted a number of times and were playing with it. Like, that's what I was really going for. And I really wanted to reward, the people that, attempted to play or attempted to raid. But, like, don't get me wrong. If, your admiral or one of your guys does all the work, am I going to say, okay, like I mentioned, to leave it open for a few hours? Sure. But somebody who just warps in because one of their guys busted their buns, got their take or what it took them to crack the base. Like, am I going to sit there and just say, okay, you can play against one of my guys on the leaderboard, even though I think leaderboards are stupid? But, like, that's why I told Kevin, please no.
Okay.
I get it.
Kirk, you got anything else?
No, it makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, man, I'm doing this to have fun, but at the same time, I still got to look out for my folks here, man.
I mean, no, because again, that's the reason I play.
The only thing I like to do is sometimes, a lot of times at the end, I like to kind of give whoever we're interviewing the floor. And if you have anything to say, anything you want to say to people that may, think you're a dick or they don't know anything about you or anything you want to say at all, we'd like to give you the floor. So.
I appreciate it. My wife's already gone to bed, so it won't help that much. But I think in the end, the idea is, the reason we started our alliance is the philosophy of No Salt is basically no dicks. And people know when they are. Everybody knows that. If one of our guys are, let me know. If you're going to be a dick, when you are. Just try to avoid it and try to realize we're all human beings playing a game, for God's sakes. That's it.
And don't PM him, PM his Commodores. He gets way too many.
That's all right. I don't mind answering him.
Send everything to Handyman.
Yes, Handy loves PMs.
And I'll end with, it's okay to swing your virtual dick every once in a while.
It's only once in a blue moon, but it's fun when it is.
All right, Inco, man, thanks for coming on. I know we kind of ran a long time, but we appreciate you being on and answering all our questions. Do you have fun?
Of course. I had a very good time.
Absolutely. You want to come back on at one point, and we'll do I'll try to do a live Q&A. People can come.
I'd be happy to
ask you questions. You know what we'll do? We'll have you and Chef.
I'd love that. Chef's the
That's
bomb. I'd love that.
And then we'll just have people just go real time.
Nope, more than happy. Whatever you guys like.
Perfect. All right, guys. Thanks everybody for listening. Remember, don't be dick. That's your new RO8. This has been Trek Talk with Tech and Kirk. I'm TechMan16.
And I'm swinging my virtual dick.
And we'll see you guys next time.